Did you know that according to Truity, among college students, the INTP is the Myers-Briggs personality type that commits the most alcohol and drug infractions? While the INTP is considered to be one of the most intelligent amongst the Myers-Briggs personalities, there is a dark side to every type. And for the INTP, it's that they may be more prone to struggle with alcoholism. It should be noted that this video is only intended to share information we analyzed on the topic and may not apply to everyone. If you want to know more about this topic, you should do your own research and talk to a professional. Let's first take a look at what the INTP stands for. Introversion, I. This means that INTPs get their energy from being by themselves and find their energy drained when they're around other people for too long. Intuition, N. The intuition dimension indicates that INTPs are imaginative and focused on ideas and abstract concepts, part of what makes this type's nickname the logician. Thinking, T. INTPs make decisions with their heads, not their hearts. Perceiving, P. INTPs prefer flexibility as opposed to rigidity when it comes to their lifestyle. So, what makes this type prone to alcoholism? Number 1. They struggle with being present. As we mentioned at the start of the video, the first letter of INTP stands for introversion. This means that INTPs get their energy from being by themselves and that they may feel drained in groups of people, whether large or small. And while not all introverts struggle with social interactions, INTPs tend to, more than the average person. Part of the reason for this is that INTPs spend so much of their time in their heads. When they're interacting with others, they may struggle not only to stop the chatter in their own head, but to be fully present and engaged. They may even find themselves completely tuning out someone in the middle of the conversation because they're busy analyzing something in their head. In addition, INTPs are future-oriented, which means that most of their thoughts are spent thinking about a future goal or plan. Thus, they have a hard time being present, including when it comes to social interactions. When they're in a group of people, an INTP might be distracted by thoughts of what they're going to do later or a goal they want to accomplish in coming days, instead of being present with the people they're with at the moment. The result is that INTPs frequently feel awkward in social situations as they have a hard time connecting with others and staying engaged. Because of this, some INTPs may turn to alcohol as a way to silence their thoughts, break out of their shell, and relieve some of their feelings of social awkwardness. But if INTPs begin to depend on alcohol as a crutch every time they're in a social situation, it can lead to alcohol abuse over time. Number 2, they're afraid to fail. INTPs hold themselves to high standards, and while in an ideal world they would accomplish everything they set out to achieve, in reality, everyone experiences some failure in their life. While failure is considered a good thing in many circles, as it's thought to be an essential stepping stone on the path to achievement, INTPs don't always recognize this. In fact, given their high expectations for themselves and perfectionist natures, INTPs are more often afraid of failure. Whether this means that they don't follow through with the things they'd like to achieve because of this fear, or that they experience more stress along the road to achievement, the result is the same. INTPs are prone to experiencing high levels of anxiety. If not properly dealt with, this butterflies in their stomach feeling can lead to some INTPs to depend on alcohol as a means of getting by. This is because alcohol is a suppressant, which can temporarily relieve the jittery feelings caused by anxiety. However, in the long run, alcohol typically makes anxiety worse. This is because one's central nervous system, the system that is responsible for the feelings of anxiety, becomes accustomed to the suppressing effects of alcohol, and alcohol becomes less and less effective. Number 3, they're always in their heads. Another result of being smart is that INTPs spend most of their time in their heads trying to figure out the answers and solutions to problems around them. That's the main reason this type is nicknamed the logician, as their mission is to figure out the meaning of things, whether it's related to science, philosophy, or something else. But because they spend so much time in their heads, INTPs can have a hard time stepping away from their thoughts. As a result, they develop the habit of paying more attention to their internal dialogue than their feelings or the world around them, and can have difficulty tuning out their internal noise. In this situation, this type may turn to alcohol, as it becomes a way for them to drown out their thoughts and find some peace and quiet from the constant chatter of their mind. But if an INTP isn't careful, using alcohol as a regular coping mechanism can quickly turn into a bigger problem. Number 4, they feel disconnected. The INTP is widely considered to be one of the smartest personality types, with famous INTPs including Albert Einstein, Charles Darwin, and Marie Curie. And while being intelligent certainly has its benefits, it can also make INTPs feel disconnected from others. According to a study published in the British Journal of Psychology, intelligent people are not only lonelier than most because they feel different from their peers, but they also don't reap the same benefits most of us do when it comes to friendships. While the average person gets happiness and emotional connection from friendships because of their intelligence, INTPs may get less satisfaction from spending time with friends and prefer to be alone. But even if being by themselves is their preference, it doesn't mean that this type doesn't get lonely, because they do. And depending on the person, excessive loneliness can lead to the abuse of substances like alcohol. In fact, studies have shown that feeling isolated can lead to alcohol addiction, because alcohol becomes a way to numb the pain of feeling like you don't fit in. Even worse, while an INTP may start drinking to feel better, alcohol can actually make an INTP feel even more alone in the long run, because it's a reminder that their loneliness is the reason they're drinking. Over time, they can get caught in a vicious cycle where alcohol reinforces their feeling of isolation. Number 5, they're perfectionists. Because they take pride in their intelligence and in finding the perfect solution to a given problem, INTPs are often drawn to perfectionism. And while perfectionism in moderation usually isn't a bad thing, in large doses, it can become crippling. This is especially the case when INTPs' perfectionism prohibits them from getting done what they set out to accomplish, as it leads them to analysis paralysis. For instance, an INTP who's working as a scientist might find themselves brainstorming all the different ways to carry out an experiment, but in their quest to find the perfect way to do it, never end up doing the experiment at all or delaying it significantly. What's more, studies have drawn a link between perfectionism and alcoholism. A study published in Alcoholism, Clinical and Experimental Research, for instance, showed that perfectionists may be more prone to alcoholism because they share many risk factors in common with those associated with severe alcohol use disorder. These include low self-esteem, the tendency to self-blame, and a gap between how someone views themselves and their ideal self. As these traits can lead to significant stress in perfectionists, they may turn to alcohol as a way to cope, and being the perfectionists that they are, INTPs may find themselves with similar tendencies. Number 6, they're very hard on themselves. INTPs aren't just smart. They know that they're smart and take pride in their intelligence. But in an effort to maintain this self-image, they frequently hold themselves to very high standards. And if they don't meet the standards they've set for themselves, an INTP will become at best disappointed with themselves and at worst, disparaging. But it's not just themselves that INTPs hold to a high standard. They also have elevated expectations for those around them. What's more, they get frustrated when others don't elevate themselves to their level, and they aren't afraid to voice this. In fact, this is why INTPs are often known as being critical and condescending towards others. Unfortunately, the pressure INTPs put on themselves and those around them can have negative consequences when it comes to their emotional well-being. If they're constantly pushing themselves to extremely high standards, INTPs can struggle to find joy in everyday life. And they may unintentionally ostracize those around them when they engage in critical talk, even if it's done out of an effort to help that person do better. Because they're so hard on themselves, which can make finding happiness more difficult, some INTPs develop depression. In this situation, they may turn to alcohol as a means to cope. Studies have shown that those who are depressed are more likely to abuse alcohol, with one study even finding that teens with depression are twice as likely to start drinking as those without it. However, alcohol has been shown to worsen symptoms of depression, so drinking will rarely help the INTP find the happiness they seek. What about the dark side of INTPs? Watch that video right here.